Hello and welcome to the debut edition of Power 5 Picks. I'm Drew Goldfarb, and in this series, we'll be taking a look at games across the Power 5 conferences and giving you our betting picks. Our experts and I will each have a budget of $100 a week, and we can bet it on the spread or on the money line. We have to bet the full $100 every week, and we have to bet on all 5 games that we will be posing each week. For this show, I'm joined by Taylor Smith and Jim Beviglia. Guys, week 1 of the college football season, but there are only 2 games being played this weekend in all of the football bowl subdivisions. So our $100 is divided over 2 games. Let's start with the big one. ACC's Miami Hurricanes taking on the 8th-ranked Florida Gators of the SEC. That is a Saturday afternoon game in Orlando right now. Gators favored by 7 on the spread. The UF side pays out at -115, Miami at -105. Money line, the Canes at +235, Gators -290. So Jim, what's your wager for this one?
Yeah, this is an interesting one because, first game of the season, always there's going to be a lot of unknowns. But in this case, for Miami, the unknowns are that much, they're amplified because they've got a new head coach, even though he was their defensive coordinator. They've got a new quarterback, Jaron Williams, who surprisingly won that job. They've got a lot of JUCO players on defense, really all over both sides of the ball. And whereas Florida is a little bit more of a known quantity, Miami has had success against Florida in the last few times they played, although it's been a while. So I don't know how much you can gather from that. The bottom line is I just don't feel very confident about this, not knowing what you're going to get from Miami. But if I have any confidence, I do feel that Florida is going to win the game. So I'm going to go with Florida on the money line, but I'm going to do that for $25.
All right, Taylor.
So these were 2 of the better defenses in the nation last season. Miami, I expect, will be as good, if not better, with Manny Diaz still in there. Florida scored 40 or more points in each of the last 3 games last season. I think that streak comes to an end. I would expect this game to be pretty sloppy. Most early season games tend to be, especially when you're factoring in the first start for Jaron Williams. But I kind of like Miami to cover at least 7 points. Is kind of a lot. I think it's going to be a kind of gross, low-scoring game. I would take the under if we had that available, but I'll take Miami to cover the 7 points. I'll put $30 on that.
Jaron Williams will be the starting QB for the Canes in this one, as we've been talking about. It's kind of surprising considering the hype surrounding Tate Martell's transfer over. It'll also be the first game under new head coach Manny Diaz, who was the former coordinator. For Florida, they went 10-3 under first-year head coach Dan Mullen in 2018, including an 8-point win over LSU in Gainesville and a whooping of Michigan in the Peach Bowl. The matchup of the rebuilding Florida offensive line against Diaz's defense is going to be an interesting one when it comes to seeing if the Gators can put up the numbers to win and to cover the spread. If this was a normal week for us and I had 5 games to spread the money around, I'd be taking Miami straight up for about $10. But since we only have 2 games to bet $100 on this week, I'm left playing it a bit more safe. I'm going to take Florida to win on the money line, but week 1s can be ugly and grinded out. So I'm taking on the money line, but I am going to bet $60 on this one. So I'm going to be more confident in this side of things, especially with the lines on our second contest. In our second contest, it's the Pac-12's Arizona Wildcats visiting the Mountain West Hawai'i Rainbow Warriors. Wildcats 11-point favorites this week, with each side of the spread bet paying out at -110 odds. On the money line, Arizona -420, Hawaii a whopping +320 underdog. So Taylor, what's your wager?
I was bullish on Khalil Tate last year with regard to the Heisman. He obviously let me down, but he had injuries, still finished with 26 touchdowns. I expect J.J. Taylor to have a lot of success racking up rushing yardage. Hawaii ranked 103rd against the run last season. Hawaii is always interesting when they're at home because of the travel involved for the road team, but they've covered the spread just 6 times in their last 29 home games. That's a pretty horrible track record. Hawaii was also vulnerable against big plays last season. I expect Tate to do some damage in that regard. I like Arizona. I think they'll cover the 11 points, and I'm confident enough to bet $70 on it.
Arizona's 5-0 against Hawaii all time. Their last win came in 2016. The Wildcats won that game 47-28 under then head coach Rich Rodriguez. Kevin Sumlin leads the Wildcats for his second season. They went 5-7 last year. Arizona was all over the place a year ago, whooping Oregon 44-15 when the Ducks were ranked 19th in the country. but lost to a 1-5 UCLA team the week before. Hawaii enters their fourth season under head coach Nick Rolovich and went 8-6 last year after starting 6-1. Quarterback Khalil Tate will be the key for Arizona if they're going to cover the spread. And this one, as Taylor was mentioning, money line too dramatic for me to even consider a bet there. And I don't like picking Hawaii winning. I don't think that's a smart play at all. So I'm going to go to the spread. In 4 of their 5 wins last season, Arizona won by more than 11 points, the exception being a 7-point win over Cal. However, they were just 1-4 on the road last year. The Warriors were 5-2 at home during the regular season. I'm going to say that Arizona does not cover the spread. I think that neither team has a particularly strong defense, and that's kind of what I'm banking on, is this just being a shootout. Got $40 left to bet, so I'm betting $40 on it. I think both teams will score a lot of points. Getting nearly 2 touchdowns worth of separation is hard for me to bank on. Normal week, I'd be taking Arizona straight up for $20. Jim, how are you betting on this one?
Yeah, well, Drew, you mentioned that we both think this is going to be a real shootout. Neither defense was very accomplished last year. Both offenses really have some pop. Hawaii's quarterback, Cole McDonald, put up huge numbers, has a lot of receivers back from last year. Hawaii overall has a lot more returning players than Arizona, and they were quietly a winning football team last year. Taylor mentioned Khalil Tate, who kind of had a funky year last year. The year before, he ran for like 1,400 yards. They kind of took that out of the playbook last year, and he ran for under 300 yards. So I don't know if they bring that back in and make them a more potent team. One stat I did find, Hawaii has at times struggled at home, but for whatever reason, their last 6 games at home against the Pac-12, they've covered every one of those games. So taking that into account, taking into account that I think, neither team is going to have an easy time stopping the other, I like Hawaii to cover with the 11 points, and I'm confident in that one. I'm going to make it a $75 wager.
That'll do it for this debut edition of Power 5 Picks. Make sure to check back next week. We'll have a full slate of games, all 5 conferences in the Power 5 covered, and a full plate of picks. Make sure to like this video, subscribe to the Odds On Favorites YouTube channel, and let us know which bets you'd take for this week's games down in the comments below. For Beviglia and Taylor Smith, I'm Drew Goldfarb. Thank you so much for watching. See you next time.